Dear Chosen One, are you ready to discover the power, the light, and the peace within you? This is not just a journey, it is a time to go deeper into your destiny and begin to feel the power of having chosen you for the highest purpose of the universe. You are a messenger of peace, a carrier of tranquility, and a light sent to create the harmony of the universe. Today is the time to spread your power, light, and love to the world. You are called to illuminate the darkness around you, to unite hearts, and to carry the peace within you to the outside. Remember, your journey was destined to touch this world and spread more light with each step. You have been chosen, and now it is time to offer this sacred power to the world by writing 77 in the comments. The ones who once dismissed you now find themselves uneasy in your presence. They remember the version of you that doubted, over-explained, and sought approval. That version is gone. You no longer announce your strength. It radiates effortlessly. Their discomfort betrays them. Restless glances, subtle fidgets, the way they suddenly seem unsure of themselves in your silence. It's not about pride or superiority. It's about energy. Undeniable, untouchable, unshakable. The kind that commands without demanding, that shifts the air in the room without a word. They can pretend all they want, but the truth is clear. They feel it. There was a time when their chaos dictated your emotions. They thrived on your reactions, feeding off your need to explain, to clarify, to prove. They played mind games, tangled you in loops of doubt, and kept you engaged in battles you never needed to fight. But they miscalculated. You stopped responding. They prod, they provoke, they test the waters, waiting for the old patterns to return. But they are met with nothing. No anger, no justification, no attempt to make them understand. And that silence, it terrifies them. They wanted a response because a response meant power. They would have welcomed rage because rage is still connection. But nothingness is a force they cannot manipulate. They speak louder, hoping to draw you back in. They fabricate stories, hoping to force a reaction. But you are unmoved. They do not recognize this version of you because they never imagined you could exist beyond their reach. Your absence is not a void. It is the presence of something greater. While they cycle through their old tactics, you have already stepped beyond them. No need to defend, to argue, to correct their perception. You've let go in a way they never thought possible. They check for a message that will never come. They bring up your name, hoping someone will say you regret leaving. They linger in spaces you've outgrown, convinced you'll return. But you don't. You are not playing a game. You have simply moved on. And that is what unsettles them the most. They used to believe they held the upper hand, that your choices depended on their opinions, their validation. Now, they hesitate, unsure of themselves in a way they never were before. They overanalyze every move, while you move forward with certainty. They wonder how you always seem to be a step ahead, how you avoided the pitfalls they walked straight into, how you discerned what was real and what was a trap. They search for the secret, convinced you must have some hidden advantage, and you do, but it was never theirs to control. They thought they could keep you in the dark, that you needed their insights to navigate life. What they didn't see was that your direction never came from them. Your path is guided by something they cannot perceive, something beyond their grasp. They try to interfere, to throw obstacles in your way, to plant seeds of doubt. But nothing takes root. Their approval holds no weight. Their disapproval carries no consequence. Because your foundation was never built on their opinions, It was built on something eternal, something unshaken, something they will never understand. The ones who hesitate, waiting for approval before they act, now find themselves left behind. They stood still, weighing their options, while another force carved its own way forward. The illusion of control they once clung to has shattered, and now they can only observe from a distance, watching something they never expected: unstoppable movement. They believed the story would always revolve around them, that no step would be taken without their permission. They assumed presence meant permanence, that silence meant submission. But silence was never surrender. It was the space where something greater was being built. And now they witnessed the rise of what they once dismissed, unable to reconcile their fading influence with the reality before them. If you feel the abundance of divine love in your heart, now is the time to share it. You can help spread God's blessings by clicking the super thank you button on YouTube and contributing $20 or more. This divine gift will touch not only your life, but the souls of many through this platform. Each of you has a sacred place in God's grand design, and your generosity will be the fruit of our prayers. Act now. Share your blessings to glorify His kingdom, for you were created to do even greater things in God's loving hands. May God bless you. Once, they toyed with perception, shaping narratives to ensure their place at the center. Their words carried weight, their opinions swayed direction, and they reveled in the idea that their validation determined worth. But time has overturned their fragile empire. The one they overlooked no longer seeks entrance into their world. The seat they thought was forever reserved is now vacant, abandoned, irrelevant. They attempt to mend what was broken, not through honesty, but through empty gestures. They resurface with insincere pleasantries, subtle attempts to rekindle what they once extinguished. But memories do not fade so easily. The moments of abandonment, the quiet betrayals, the laughter shared at someone else's expense, all of it remains etched deep enough to ensure no door will be reopened. It is not bitterness that keeps them out, nor revenge. It is something far more unsettling for them to accept: the simple truth that their place is no longer needed. The shift was never external. The transformation did not come from proving anything to them. It was the realization that no approval was ever required, no validation was ever necessary. They mistook quiet evolution for weakness, failing to see that true strength is never desperate to be noticed. And now, as they search for cracks in the foundation, they find none. What was once dependent on their recognition now stands independent, untouchable, beyond reach. The desperation grows, not because they have changed, but because they never thought this moment would come. They expected hesitation, a longing glance backward, a flicker of uncertainty that might invite them back in. Instead, they face something they cannot manipulate: absolute detachment. They whisper theories, convinced there must be some external force at play. They convince themselves that it is circumstance, coincidence, anything but what it really is: the inevitable. They struggle with the weight of their own irrelevance, clinging to the hope that somehow, someday, the tide will turn in their favor. But the current does not flow backward, and no force can reverse what has already unfolded. They spent years believing they held the keys, only to realize too late that the door was never locked. It was simply walked away from, never to be opened again. The echoes of the past no longer reach you. They search for familiarity, hoping to see the reflection of who you used to be, but they are met with someone they cannot define. The version of you that once lingered in uncertainty, that sought approval where none was given, that stretched itself thin to accommodate others. It no longer exists. They speak in riddles, hoping to trigger a response, to pull you back into a script that no longer applies. But the lines fall flat, the performances uninspired. They reach out, expecting warmth, expecting recognition, but all they find is a presence that no longer bends for their comfort. They thought they had time. They assumed that absence would create longing, that distance would soften the edges of what was broken. They return with rehearsed words, feigned nostalgia, carefully constructed attempts to ease their way back in. They remind you of shared moments, of laughter, of bonds that once seemed unbreakable. But their words feel weightless, their presence misplaced. What they do not understand is that you are no longer reaching. Where once you might have grasped for connection, for reassurance, for understanding, now you stand unmoved. They fumble, unsure of how to navigate a reality where they no longer hold significance. The comfort they took in your pursuit has disappeared, leaving them adrift in their own uncertainty. Imagine, if you will, a tree standing tall in the forest. For years, it grew in the same patch of earth, its branches reaching out in every direction, providing shade and shelter to all who sought it. And for a time, that tree and the creatures who lived around it were all connected, all part of the same cycle, all part of the same rhythm. But over time, that tree began to stretch higher, its roots sinking deeper, its trunk growing thicker, reaching for the sunlight in ways it had never done before. And while others might still stand beneath its branches, looking up, they soon realized they couldn't stay there forever. Just like that tree, you've outgrown the space that once was your home. You've outgrown the version of yourself that was bound by the past. The past doesn't call to you anymore. It's no longer a place where you need to revisit, no longer a space where you must explain or defend who you are or why you've moved forward. It's like the old coat that once fit perfectly, but now it hangs loosely, no longer a part of who you are. It's too small for you now, too tight, and no matter how hard you try to wear it, it doesn't fit anymore. You see, there are those who stand at the door of your past, searching for a way in, wondering if they can still be part of the journey you're on. They hover at the threshold, peering through the crack, but they hesitate. They want to be a part of your now, but they don't understand what it took for you to get here. They don't understand the growth that you've gone through, the challenges you've faced, the strength you've gained. They've been holding on to an idea of who you were, not realizing that who you were has already been transformed into something greater, something higher. And the thing is, my friend, you don't owe them an explanation. You don't need to apologize for the person you've become. The past has no claim on you anymore. The door they thought was always open to them has closed, not out of anger, not out of resentment, but because they never chose to grow. You see, growth is a choice, and those who refuse to grow, who choose to remain in the same place, can no longer walk the path that you're on. It's like a river that flows. At first, the water moves slowly, and everything in its path is shaped by its presence. But as time goes on, the river grows wider, deeper, stronger. It continues to flow forward, carving new paths, creating new ways to move through the landscape. Those who tried to walk beside the river when it was shallow, those who tried to stand in the water when it was still small, find themselves unable to keep up when the river deepens. The river's path is no longer theirs to follow. The current has changed, and they are no longer part of the flow, not because the river rejects them, but because they have refused to go with it. to move forward, to grow alongside it. Dear brothers and sisters, may God's peace be upon you today. I am here to remind you of a profound truth. Our existence is grounded in God's divine plan, unshaken by the temporal concerns of the world. As the Bible says, whatever is done in faith will return to God in abundant blessing. Luke 6:38. Like that great oak tree, our roots are deeply rooted in God's universal truth. Every step we take, every stand we take, is secured by His strength. And now, you are being offered the opportunity to be part of that blessing. When you use the Super Thank You button and donate $100, this movement will return to you 100-fold in abundance. You've chosen to grow. You've chosen to rise. And now, that space you occupy, that place of peace, of purpose, of power, it is not meant for everyone. It is for those who are willing to walk the path of growth with you, those who are ready to stretch their roots into the soil of purpose and expand their branches toward the sunlight of divine potential. Not everyone is ready for that. Not everyone is willing to pay the price that growth demands, and that's okay. You don't have to convince them. You don't have to beg them to see what you see. You don't have to explain yourself to them. Because the truth is, my friend, you were always meant for this. You were always meant to rise higher, to become more than what you were yesterday. And the growth you've experienced, spiritually, emotionally, mentally, it's not just for you. It's for the people around you who will look at your life and see the evidence of what it means to choose growth. It's for the people who are ready to follow, who are ready to walk beside you in the light of your divine calling. Those who are ready to grow with you. But those who are unwilling to change, unwilling to grow, they will remain behind. Not because you've left them, but because they chose to stay where they were. So stand tall, my friend. Don't look back. The door that was once open is now closed. And that's okay. You don't need to go back. You don't need to rehash the past. You've been called to rise. And as you rise, you make space for others to do the same. Your light is meant to shine, and no one can take that light from you. Not now, not ever. You've been chosen to walk this path, to occupy this space, and no one can take that away from you. Keep walking forward, keep growing, keep rising, and know that you are exactly where you were always meant to be. They watch, waiting for any sign that you're still clinging to the past, that you're still hoping for their approval, still searching for a piece of their validation. But here's the truth. The silence they hear isn't empty. It's not a void. No, it's overflowing. Overflowing with everything they could have had, everything they missed out on because they chose to turn away. They let their pride and their limited understanding decide who was worthy and who was not. They set the terms, convinced they had the right to determine who deserved to rise, who had the right to shine. But what they never understood, what they still don't see, is that your light, your worth, was never about their approval. It was never dependent on their view of you. Like a seed that grows in soil far away from the eyes of the ones who once turned their back, your potential has always been nourished by something greater than the fleeting opinions of people. They tried to build their own rules, carve out their own boundaries, thinking they could decide who could flourish and who had to stay in the shadows. But you, my friend, you were never meant to be confined by their rules. Your purpose, your rise, was destined from the beginning, before the stars were even set in the sky. Think about it this way. When a tree grows, it doesn't seek permission from the forest. It doesn't ask for validation from the soil. It just grows, reaching toward the sun. toward the light, as it was always meant to. The roots may be hidden beneath the earth, and the branches may be swayed by the wind, but that tree knows its purpose. It knows its place in the world. It doesn't need anyone to tell it that it's allowed to stand tall. It simply does because it was chosen, because it was destined to reach toward the heavens, just as you were chosen to rise. The world will try to make you think that you need their permission, that you need their acknowledgement. But what they fail to realize is that the light that's within you, the light that guides you, is not something that can be dimmed by their thoughts or their judgment. It's a light that comes from a higher source, a source that sees your worth beyond anything they could ever comprehend. It's like a diamond buried deep in the earth. It doesn't ask for the dirt to be removed or for anyone to come and notice it. Over time, with the right pressure, with the right circumstances, it begins to shine, no matter what's around it. It doesn't matter how long it's been hidden or who walked past it. When the time comes, it will be seen for what it truly is: precious, beautiful, and rare, just like you. And you're not just any diamond, my friend. No, you are the one who has been chosen, the one who has been called to shine in a world that has often turned its back on you. You've been prepared for this moment, this time when the world will finally see you for who you truly are. You're not a product of anyone else's validation. You are a child of the Most High, and He sees you, He knows you, and He has never stopped believing in your potential. It's like the story of the eagle. The eagle doesn't fly around looking for approval from the other birds. It doesn't need a crowd to cheer it on. It soars high, with wings spread wide, because that's what it was born to do. And so are you. You were born to soar, born to rise above the doubts, above the negativity, above the voices that told you you weren't enough. You are enough. You are more than enough. And when you finally realize that your worth is not determined by the opinions of others, when you finally understand that you were always meant for greatness, that's when the world will begin to see the power of your rise. Imagine a seed planted deep in the earth, unseen by the world above. It's buried, waiting, in a place where no one can reach it. And yet, it is destined to grow. It doesn't have to fight for sunlight. It doesn't have to beg for water. No, it simply begins to grow, stretching its roots deep into the soil, reaching for the light that is already waiting for it. And when the time comes, it will break through the surface and bloom. It doesn't need anyone to tell it it's ready. It just knows. My friend, that seed is you. You've been chosen for this moment, for this time, for this purpose that has been written for you long before you even knew you were on the path. You've been chosen to rise, to shine, to bloom just like that seed. Because inside of you, there's a divine light that has been waiting to break through. Your journey was already set before you took your first step. Your life, your purpose, has been written in the stars, ordained by the Creator Himself. I want you to understand this. There's nothing, absolutely nothing in this world that can take away the purpose that's inside of you. The world may try to tell you that you're not enough, that you're too small, too weak, too ordinary. But what they don't know, what they don't understand, is that you have been planted by the hands of the Almighty, and when the time comes, you will rise. You will bloom in ways they can't even imagine. And it's not just about a moment of glory, it's about the whole process, my friend. The seed has to push through the dirt, it has to break free from the darkness, and when it does, it reaches toward the light that was always there. Your light is the same way. It doesn't flicker in the dark. It's not something that fades. No, your light grows brighter with every step you take, with every obstacle you overcome, with every challenge that tries to hold you down. It doesn't matter what the world says. Your light shines brighter with each passing day, because it's not a light that can be extinguished by anything this world can throw at it. Now is the time to share God's blessings by clicking the super thank you button on YouTube. You can contribute to His plan and be a part of this divine mission with a donation of $100 or more. Every gift reflects God's generosity, and I believe it will return to you exponentially far beyond your expectations. Remember, His protection and blessing is on your every step and every donation. You become part of His divine plan. You are a strong, radiant being, unshakable as His mighty rock. Witness God's miracles, feel the fruits of your generosity in your soul, and illuminate the world with confidence and courage. Be blessed, and let the light of the Lord guide your path. I know there are times when you felt like you were overlooked, like you were forgotten. Maybe you've been in the dark, waiting for someone to notice you, to tell you that it's your time. But I'm here to tell you, your time is now. You've been chosen to rise. You've been chosen to shine. And the beauty of it all is that it wasn't up to anyone else. It's not about their approval. It's not about their validation. Your light comes from a place of divine purpose. It's from a place of love, so deep, so pure, that no human opinion can ever change what you were created to be. Like the sun that rises every morning without fail, your purpose is steadfast. It doesn't hesitate. It doesn't need to ask for permission. The sun rises because that's what it was made to do, and so do you. You've been set apart for greatness, and now is the time for you to step into that greatness. You were never meant to hide in the shadows, waiting for someone to tell you it's your time. No, your time is here, and it has been from the moment you were born. You are walking a path of destiny, a path that leads to a future greater than anything you could have imagined. I want you to hear this. You are not just here by accident. You didn't just stumble into this life. You were placed here on purpose, for a purpose, and that purpose is greater than anything the world could ever offer. The plans that have been laid out for you were made long before you ever took your first breath. And now, it's your time to walk in them. Just like that seed that stretches toward the light, you are stretching, reaching for the higher calling that has been placed in your heart. You may not see it fully yet, but I promise you, it's already there, growing inside of you, pushing you forward. Your light will not be dimmed. It will not be snuffed out. It will only grow brighter as you walk in the purpose you were created for. You've been chosen, my friend, chosen to walk this path, chosen to rise above the doubts, above the negativity, above the voices that try to tell you it's not your time. It is your time. You have been chosen for this moment, for this season, for this time in history. And nothing in this world can take that away from you. You were made to shine. And no matter what's going on around you, no matter how dark the world may seem, you are walking in the light of a divine purpose that cannot be shaken. Your light is not something that fades with time. It only grows brighter, stronger, more radiant, because it comes from a place of infinite love, a love that will never leave you, a love that sees you for who you truly are. You are worthy. You are chosen. You are meant for greatness. And as you walk this path, I want you to remember one thing. Nothing, absolutely nothing, can ever take that away from you. So, my friend, stand tall. Don't wait for them to acknowledge you. Don't wait for their approval. You don't need it. The only approval you need is from the one who made you, the one who set you apart, the one who has already marked you for greatness. His eyes are on you, and that's all that matters. You are chosen, you are worthy, you are destined to rise, and no one can take that away from you. They do not resent your success. They resent what it reflects back at them. They see the choices they did not make, the steps they were too afraid to take, the comfort they chose over growth. You have become the proof of what was always possible, and that is a truth they cannot escape. So they tell themselves stories, they craft illusions, they whisper justifications to soften the weight of their own inaction. But deep down, they know. The only thing that ever held them back was themselves. They search for cracks in your foundation, for signs that you will falter, for proof that they were right to stay stagnant. But what they fail to understand is that you do not chase, you do not plead, you do not explain. You rise, and that is something they will never be able to grasp.